I get the fun part of saying all the good things that's going on at Trinity. I'm going to let Ben over here handle the hard part, and you'll see what I mean by that at the end here. But there's a lot of great things going on here at Trinity. The what, the why, and the how. So the what is we're seeing a huge increase in the number of families that are seeking a Christian education, and not just a Christian education. Yeah, hallelujah is right. But a spirit-filled Christian education. And believe me, there is a difference, and I know that most of you know that. Trinity is a special school. It really is. There's lots of Christian schools out there, but to have a truly spirit-filled school that stands on God's word and will not waver from it is a special thing. And I know it's why so many of you send your kids to school here. Let's face it, the options for those parents that have kids in public schools are becoming fewer and fewer. Parents are losing their choices when it comes to the education of their children in public schools. And I know that because I work in a public school. It really is a sad state of affairs. It's so important that we have a school like Triunity. But with that comes some issues too. We have over 80 brand new families just this year alone. That's amazing. And I think that's like 128, Brittany might check my numbers, I think 128 new students this year that we have. And again, while that's fantastic and it's great, it does cause some logistical and organizational issues that we have to address. If you've been here this year, you see we're kind of bursting at the seams. I know the teachers are feeling it. They're seeing it in their classrooms. We see it in the hallways. We've got to figure some things out if we're going to continue to grow and continue to spread God's word. And so that's what we want to talk to you guys about tonight. Again, we've got a lot of great things happening, but I think we currently have over 60 students on a wait list for next school year, and we don't want to have to turn those families away. And I know that Brittany continues to every week, she gets more and more inquiries about, from families that want to enroll their children here at Triunity. So it's a good problem, but it is a problem, and so we need to find some ways to address that. Just to give a little background, Triunity's been around for about 40 years. 1980 is when the very first day of school for 55 students back in the old People's Church opened. We've come a long ways since then. In 1984 was when the very first middle school and high school classes met, back when we were at Grand Rapids First. 1987 was when the very first graduating class of 28 students graduated from Triunity. In 2010, we purchased the campus here in this building. In 2017, we moved into our brand new 40,000 square foot building, which we're enjoying right now, but we've already started to outgrow that. God is moving. He's doing things. And so I think tonight we're really going to get to kind of share that, and you're going to see just all the great things that are happening. God's got a plan for this school, and we want to be good stewards, and we want to honor and glorify him. This really is a city on a hill. And then finally, 2022, which is what we're going to talk about, is the harvest. The harvest is ripe. Jesus said, the harvest is ripe, but where are the workers? And so we're all here. You guys are all here. We are the workers. We've got to do our part in gathering this harvest, because we live in a dark world. We need these children that we're raising up to be disciples for Christ, because that's the only thing that's going to change this. It's going to take you and I. It's going to take our kids, and it's going to take a passion for spreading God's word and raising disciples that are going to honor and glorify our Savior. So before I hand it over to Ben, I just wanted to share a little bit more about what I see here at Triunity. I've gone, to Triunity as a student. My kids have gone to Triunity, and it's just such a special school. The teachers that work here, they're so much more than just teachers. I mean, they're friends, they're family. We love them. We know that they love our kids. They have a passion for our kids. There is not another school like this, and so I'm excited to see what's happening here at Triunity. I think you will be too. So I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Mr. Ben Opoff, our Director of Development, and he's going to share some things as well here with you.
Thank you, Justin. Well, first of all, I hope you know what a big night this is, because I don't wear jackets very often, okay? I think I might have pulled one out for the fall banquet, but this is just as important tonight. And I really do mean that. I am excited about this school and what God's doing and how he's moving. We better turn the heat down a little bit, because I'm probably get fired up. There'll be some sweat tonight, because it's that important. It's that important, guys. All right, so let me give you a little bit of history. And I've talked to the staff and the board already prior to today. So, and I know I am not alone in this. Jeremy Osmond and I talked. We've been praying over this school for a long time and for growth. There was a time when Jeremy and I were standing out in the parking lot and we were talking about the land across the street, which looks the way it does right now. A lot of trees. We didn't even know how big it was. We just knew it was bigger than where we were at. And wow, wouldn't that be awesome? How many of you remember when we moved into the high school and we wanted that I think it was 5 acres where the medical memory care facility is right now. And we were all so bummed when, the asking price, which was a lot of money, I want to say it was like $3 million or something, we couldn't come to the table for that. And it went to the memory care and it started building, and we were all like, Lord, that was our growth, okay? That was our growth, and now what? What are we going to do? And it's just awesome. And we've all had these situations where, a door closes and we think, bummer, now what? And then all of a sudden, a door 3 times the size opens up across the street that we didn't know about. So Jeremy and I were praying about this. I know Mr. Key has been praying. I drive down 52nd every day from home. And several years ago, pre-COVID, that time did exist, by the way, I'm driving into school, and I keep seeing that land, and I keep saying to myself, God, it'd be awesome if you could give that land to Triunity. And I don't know how many days I prayed this. I pray most days, as I'm coming into school. And so it was a lot of times. And finally one day, I just felt like God said, well, ask me for it then. Don't just say it would be great if we could have it. Ask me for it. And so I'm like, well, all right. I want that land. Now, there was no audible voice. There was no lightning bolt. I had to swerve out of the way. None of that. But it was just this, okay, God, you're a big God. You can do big things. And it's usually me that puts limits on you and puts limits on what I think you're able to do. So kept praying. And I want to save the rest of this part of the story for when we actually get to the second phase. But I look at what Justin said tonight about we've grown 128 students, 89 families in 1 year. Now, that's worth a hand clap, absolutely. I can remember when I started, we had 82 kids. Where's Mrs. Blanker? 82 students in the high school, I believe, at the time. When I went here, we had 56 just in my class alone. Joel was in my class, a long time ago. So I see a lot of you alumni here. There was a time in Triunity's history where we were much bigger than where we were. And, cuts and cuts and cuts and shrink, and all of a sudden we are where we are. Back in 2013, I think was when I came. That's what I remember. And slowly, God just kept giving growth, being faithful with where we were at, taking the stand, not being afraid to take the stands, not compromising who we were, but being willing to just be Lord-led and to grow as He saw fit, and to keep doing as great of a job as we would with 300 students than we would if we had 3,000 students. Being faithful in the little things. And I believe that we did that. And now I look at what He's doing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, God, wow, did you set us up for where you were taking us? So, all that to say, I want to talk to you, and Justin referenced it already, about a verse. And that verse is Matthew 5:14-16. It says, you are the world's light, a city on a hill, glowing in the night for all to see. Don't hide your light. Let it shine for all. Let your good deeds glow for all to see, so that they will praise your heavenly Father. Some of us sang this in Sunday school in a different translation a long time ago. We're pretty familiar with this verse, this city on a hill, this don't hide your light. But as I was driving down, this is so cool. As I'm driving down 52nd one day, this is what came into my mind. And I'm like, okay, God, you want us to be a city on a hill. You're bringing people to Triunity. You're growing Triunity so that it's going to stand out for some reason. Otherwise, you would shut the doors if you were done with us. But you're continuing to grow us and to shape us into who you're ultimately calling us to be. We just celebrated 40 years. That's no small feat. There's schools that are closing all over the place. 40 years for Tiny Triunity Christian School that began at People's Church in First Assembly's basement for 35 years. I always said we were like the adult child. I have 2 adult children. I really hope they're not living with me at 35. If they are, well, you love them, but I don't know. We can talk about that later. God made a way for us to move in to this side of the building. Man, city on a hill. The more that kept coming to me, I kept thinking figuratively, okay, God, you want us to stand out. And then all of a sudden, we started to look into this land. And would you know that when we got the topographical studies back for this land across the street, that the farthest, from the back of the property to the front of the property, there's a difference of 40 feet. The highest point of being at the back of the property, which coincidentally, not really, is exactly where we're going to build one day a new high school. We will be figuratively and literally a city on a hill. And it's cool because it's the little details. It's the little things that God cares about. You know, like we always look big. He cares about the small things. So let me go forward here. Let me share this vision with you. If you have a brochure, if you don't, you're sitting on it because everybody had one on your chair. You can follow along if you want in there. Here's what it says. Trinity Christian School has existed for 40 years with a call to raise up generations of Christ followers, equipped with a comprehensive understanding of His Word and a knowledge of the world He created. While our mission remains constant, God has made it abundantly clear He is calling Trinity to a new level of educational and spiritual influence, one that requires us to take bold stands and even bolder steps of faith. If any of you are living in the culture today, you know exactly what that means, taking bold stands and even bolder steps of faith. And ultimately, it's one that calls us to be a city on a hill, both figuratively and literally. And that brings us to why we're here tonight, folks. If you think of city on a hill as the overarching vision, we're dividing that vision into two phases. As Justin mentioned already, due to our growth and due to the waiting list that we already have, we had to make a decision. We had to decide whether to just cap enrollment and say, sorry, we don't have any more space, we can't take any more students, or to say, God, if you're drawing students to Tri-Unity in an unprecedented way, which 128 students in 1 year is pretty unprecedented, I think everybody would agree. If you're doing this, then Lord, you're going to have to make a way and provide resources for us to grow to be able to take these students. So that launched phase one, which we're calling Ready Harvest. I think Ready Harvest is pretty obvious at this point why we landed with that. Ready Harvest, phase one, will include these things. 5 new elementary classrooms. When you're done tonight, you can see in the back there's some renderings there. There'll also be a picture on the slides as well up here. There'll also be a new set of restrooms with those 5 classrooms. It also includes complete resurfacing of our existing parking lots and additional parking, and probably the most important thing to anybody, has anybody been in carpool here ever? Okay. I said, they're not going to hear one more thing we say the rest of the night when we say there's going to be a new additional exit off the south property. Yeah. If anybody's driven carpool, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's, bless Karen. Where's Karen? Is she in here? Karen Benzanton? Where's Karen? Nobody likes to have to do that job, but you do it well, okay? And we're going to try to make it easier by adding that extra exit. Okay. Also, we have a land contract on the elementary side of the building. When we purchased this building, we purchased it from a church, and we got a land contract on that. There is a remaining balance, right around $500,000 is what that is right now, not including current payments and future ones. It also, in phase one, includes the purchase of 30 acres of land right across the street that you've seen in preparation for phase two. And here I want to finish the rest of that story. So I told you, we believed God for providing that land, asking, Lord, would you give it to us? So I was having lunch with somebody one day. They tease me all the time here because they see that's all I ever do is eat lunch with people. Partly true. I'm having lunch with somebody, and I'm kind of talking about the land, like, boy, wouldn't it be awesome? And in the process, they look up on their phone and tell me who owns the land. And so I get a name, and I come back, and I'm like, I'm going to call them. I have $0, but does that matter, really? Because my God's got plenty of dollars and plenty of cattle on 1,000 hills. Come on, somebody. All right? Don't maybe get Pentecostal in here. So I make a phone call. I don't get a call back. I'm like, that's weird, Lord. I feel like this is what you want me to do. Then I found out he had triple bypass. So that does, make it difficult to call people back. I called him back. Again, said, hey, listen, you don't know me. I'm at Tri-Unity. We're growing. We're growing big time, and we're starting to think, we just celebrated 40 years. We're thinking about the next 40. And I tell you what, your land has incredible strategic property for us, right across the street from where we are. We could expand, we could set ourselves up for the next 40 years just on the 25 acres that you have over there. And he said, well, you know, maybe true, except I've already got an offer in from a developer. They're going to put some multi-unit homes in there, single-family residence, you know, a mixture. Thanks, you know, but no thanks. And I said, all right, well, you know, if things change, just let me know. Nothing changed, so I called again a month later. And, I mean, wouldn't we all do that? So I called him, and I was like, hey, I know it's been a month, but anything changed on the property? Nope, nothing's changed on the property. Okay, guess what? Nothing's changed with us either. We're really interested in it still. Okay, well, we'll let you know if it changes. So this went on for 8 months, and goes the saying, a squeaky wheel gets... Listen, somebody somewhere knows the saying, a squeaky wheel gets the grease. Come on. Am I right? All right. So I keep calling, and eventually one day he says, well, listen, I've told you I've got this offer. I want to be fair to them. I don't want to just sell it out from underneath them. And I said, I get it. We don't want you to do that either. We want you to do the right thing. But for some reason at the same time, everything that developer was trying to do kept getting stuck and on hold and pushed back, and every meeting just wasn't happening. So finally, in August, I called again and I said, hey, listen, we're really interested in that still, but we still don't have any money. But we're really interested in that. And he was like, you know what? I tell you what, I really would like you guys to have that property. I'll tell you what, can you, if you can put an offer together in the next few days, I'll let you, I mean, they've had enough time to move on and they haven't. I'll give you the opportunity to buy it. I'm like, sweet. I need money. So I came to school and I'm like, Lord, all right, here's the deal. It's not the first time if I hear me, because, you know, we all hear ourselves once in a while. But if this is you, and this has been you moving, and I'm hearing your voice, I've done everything I can do. I've bothered this man for 8 months, and he's now willing to do this. We have $0. I need you to provide a way. 4 phone calls later, on the 4th phone call, I spoke to someone who said, you know what? I see that vision. I think that'd be great for the school. I tell you what I'll do. You see what kind of money you can raise, and then whatever you're short, I'll cover the rest at a 0% note. I'm like, I like that idea. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's a great idea. Then he called me back that night and said, tell you what, I know in schools, things move slowly. It's big steps. We're talking huge steps for the school. Why don't I just buy the whole thing and then just hold on to it for you guys until you decide what you want to do? And I'm like, I like that idea too. So listen, absolutely. And so that's how this started. And now we meet as a board. We had several meetings, and we're talking about, okay, gosh, this is just a few. Yeah, sorry, Nicole. We took a lot of his nights and everybody else. We sit in these meetings and we're like, okay, this really seems like God. Let's take the steps forward. Let's do it. So we get to the point, we sign a purchase agreement and all that. I think it was the day we signed the purchase agreement, our realtor, Andy Richter, by the way, who has donated all his time and his real estate efforts to help make this possible for Tri-Unity, been a huge blessing to the school. He calls me and he says, hey, on 52nd, there's this house that sits back and it's got a big giant red barn and it's been for sale for like a couple years. And they've listed it commercially and they're decided they're going to move it to residential and drop like $100,000 on it. Are you guys interested in that? And I was thinking, yeah, because that gives us access to 52nd Street. Now we could enter off of 52nd and we can enter off Wilson. He's like, okay, that's $420,000. I'm like, we just raised a lot more than that, okay? So I went back to the special donor and I said, hey, I can tell you where I was. I'm in the park behind my house, walking a lap. And of course he answered, and I was kind of hoping he didn't. And I was like, okay, I'm so thankful that you have already been so generous to us, but can I ask one more thing? It's really chump change compared to what you've given us. We have an opportunity to purchase this land, this additional 5 acres off of 52nd Street. That would give us, access to 52nd as well as Wilson. And it'd really be a win for the school. There's a huge barn on it. It would be great for storage we could use right away, because anybody that has been here for long knows we barely have any storage around here, okay? And he was like, tell you what, if you think it's great for the school, I'll back it. That quick, folks, that quick. So fast forward now a few months from the beginning of the year, and we've closed on both properties, and Triunity actually is the proud owner of that land across the street and the 5 acres off 52nd Street. So big steps, but hey, we serve a big God, don't we? I mean, and I'm just going to be personally vulnerable here. My job, obviously, as development, is to raise funds. I was given a 6-figure fund goal the first year I started, which was like halfway through the year. And then another 6-figure one the next year. In both years, God provided all that we needed by January. All and more by the time the year was done. And here I was looking at this land and I'm thinking, oh, this is 7 figures, God. That's not 6, that's 7, God. You know, and he's like, okay, 2 years in a row, I give you more than what you need halfway through the year. And now you're worried about, you know, this 7 figures. Now I go ahead and I do that. And now you're thinking like, oh, but you know, when we build across the street, it's probably going to be 8 figures. Where are we going to come up with that? And he's like, hello, 6, 7 figures. Pretty sure I can handle 8 too. So I just want to tell you, he's even been stretching me in this process of like, hey, I can do what you don't think I can do. Just be obedient. And this, somebody told me this. I can't remember who. If you're in here, thank you. We are only required to be obedient. We're never in charge of the results. God's in charge of the results. And I think this last, you know, what he's done in the last 6 months here at the school with the growth that we've had, with now providing for future growth that we have, I think he's made that pretty clear. Hey, I can handle the results, guys. All right? If I'm bringing kids to your school, I will give you the resources to grow to the point where you can take it. And so, pretty exciting times to be in. So this is phase 1. Again, it's in your brochure. If you probably won't remember all that I'm saying. The total amount that we're looking to raise for this phase is $4 million. Now again, is it a lot of money? Yes, it's a lot of money. But it doesn't seem as much money, to be honest with you, after what he's done in the last 6 months. It's $4 million. But I mean, I would be a fool to think, okay, he's run out of resources. He's already done this. How is he going to bring the rest of it in? So let's move. Whoops. Let me go back one. Here is where we're at right now with phase 1. And after we're done with this little bit of the presentation, then we're going to have a chance for you to ask maybe some more specific questions that you might have. We'll have some more people come up here that can speak more knowledgeably about this part than I can. Here's where we're at right now. We just got the bids back for the 5 classrooms that we're going to add. We are committed to this, that we're going to add on the other side of the elementary, the south side. You'll notice on the renderings back there, and you'll see it in the picture that in the next slide, the bid for that came back at $1.923814. So basically, that includes all of the parking lot resurfacing. Has anybody ever hit a pothole out there? If you didn't, you're a really good driver, because they're really hard to miss these days. That has not been resurfaced, I think, probably, Merle, since the church was built, right? A long time. We need new resurfacing. We also have to expand that parking lot because of our growth. As our growth happens, the city says we have to have more parking spots. We've got some space on the south side there to do that. We have, to this point, as of tonight, we have received in total pledged total pledged and received, we have $691,720 towards that cost. Now, I know you're probably saying, well, I thought you asked for $4 million. We are. If we could do everything on that phase 1, that's going to take around $4 million. What is the most urgent need that we're coming to you tonight with? It is the construction cost that we're starting. We need to have that finished by August 1. Because we can't say yes to students without having a place to put them. So, did you want to add something?
I was going to say, as excited as we are about what's happening across the street, we have to take care of what God has given us right now, and that means taking care of this current building and meeting our current needs. And so, yeah, this phase 1 is it's phase one for a reason. It has to happen, and we really need you guys praying because we really need to try to get this addition in place for next school year.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a push, but again, we serve a big God, and so we believe that He can do it. But we definitely have to get on the ball with this phase one and this new addition on this building here. So yeah.
And I'll let you jump in just a second with some of the other figures that we talked about. This number also represents a total amount of lead gifts, board and staff commitments ahead of time. That's what this $691,720 means right now. But I think additionally, we have some more.
We do have some additional money still too. We actually have been doing very well. We've been trying to be good stewards. We have about $150,000 surplus, which is amazing because we never have a surplus. At least that's my understanding. And then we also, we did benefit from the PPP loans, and we have about $250,000 worth of that still. So we've got about $400,000 that we can, put towards the construction of this, which puts us a little over $1 million that we already have towards phase one. So we're in a pretty good spot coming into this capital campaign. But we have a ways to go still, obviously.
But we can see it.
We can.
We can see it. And I believe construction is going to be starting March, I think is what they're going. And we all know supply chains are driving the struggle bus right now. You just never know what you're going to get and when you're going to get it. So the sooner we get started on that, our architect at one point said we should have started in the fall, And if this project here is any indication, we were able to take the scaffold down tonight, guys. So now you don't get to see that wavy screen. So God's doing big things, and we're moving along, and He's giving us favor at every part. So let's go on to the next one. I know I have to keep this meeting to an hour. I promised Deb I would keep it to an hour, and she's looking at her watch. So this is the new addition. As you can see, it's also on the renderings back there. The colored portion is the new section that we're going to add. So it looks like a little L there. That'll represent the 5 classrooms as well as a set of bathrooms within that construction there. It doesn't give you a real clear view of the parking lot. Just know that that's included in this as well. And I promise you that exit's going to be part of it. All right? That brings us to phase 2. And as Justin said, we're not going to put one shovel in the ground across the street until phase 1 is complete, because we feel that strongly that we have to make this current building what it needs to be before we can expand to that. However, that being said, get ready for acceleration, because once we add these 5 classrooms and we add a couple more sections in the elementary, as those multiple sections begin to move up, I believe the timeline is 3 years before we will no longer have room for our high school in the current place that it is, in which case we would need to be across the street. All right? So is it a fast timeline? Sure. But look at the one we're on right now. And look what God's done in the last 6 months. I'm sure everybody's going to pull me aside and say, so what's your plan? I don't have a special plan, okay? My plan is to call somebody until they stop saying no and start saying yes. That's all I know. It worked the first time. So let's look at what phase 2 is going to be. It will be it'll include construction of a new 9 through 12 high school building. Additionally, it will include the construction of a new Spiritual Life Auditorium, most likely attached to the high school building, just like this is. But I want to spend just a second on this part. As we're dreaming about this, and as I'm praying over this land, I think it's very important. When we built this high school, you can't have a high school without a gym, okay? And we have one of the nicest gyms in the area. If you've been around and you've traveled to away games, our gym is beautiful. A huge blessing. I think it's important when we go over to that side that we put just as much effort and just as much time and money into creating and building a Spiritual Life Auditorium that represents our spiritual community the same way that our gym does on Friday nights with our social community. And I really do feel strongly about that. The way I see it, I see this Spiritual Life Auditorium being of such quality that we have not just, I know we rent to a church on a Sunday here as well with Redemption, but I see this as something people can use for, concerts, recitals, speakers coming in. I mean, this will be something that people are going to be like, man, Tri-Unity's got a great auditorium over there. The sound is on point. There's no scaffolding. There's great seats. You know, I'm talking like it's built for it. What we have in here is awesome. The gymatorium, and forget that because we're not going to keep it that. We're not going to call it gymatorium. We're going to call it something else. Sorry, but I had to go with it because, okay, all right. It's a multi-purpose room, but I see this Spiritual Life Auditorium as being dedicated to that. Finished, fixed seating for more than we could fit at our Christmas program this year, okay? I know we ran out of space. I hope we never have that problem ever again where we're going, and I believe it can happen. So, Spiritual Life Auditorium, retirement of remaining loan on the current high school edition, because we do still owe on this. We want what we fundraised for over phase 2, we want to include paying off this building completely. And it also includes construction of the Defender Athletic Park, so football, soccer stadium, baseball and softball fields, concessions and locker rooms. We rent, where's Evan? God love you, Evan. You know, we rent space. Hey, let's stop for a second. Evan has done an awesome job coming in here. Don't be mad at me. You have, okay? We rent fields. Up until now, we haven't even had a middle school gym. We've had to go to Res. They've been generous in letting us using their gym. I think, Dawn, you practiced at a church out in Byron Center at one point. It's time for us to have a Defender Athletic Park of our own. It's going to be ambitious, guys. It's going to be big ticket. But I feel like, how do we doubt what God's made available for us? He's brought us this far. He's not going to just say, well, enjoy it now. Enjoy those trees. Start looking at them, you know. I know, Brandon, you want to hunt out there. That's not the long-term plan, okay? You probably want to go with them, Jared, don't you? All right, so we have TBD right now for that. We don't know what it's going to cost. We will figure that out when we get there. But that's where we're going, guys. That's what the next 3 to 4 years is looking like for Trinity. And I really mean it. We celebrated 40 years last year. Guys, this is the start. We could set ourselves up for the next 40 years. And we can build it big enough to grow into, you know? Imagine not having to turn anybody away because of size. Not having to have a waiting list because we just don't have anywhere to put them. And everybody says amen. Not having to add more portables, okay? I say that for you guys' benefit because that was quite a project. All right. I want to show you this quick. This is some drone footage that was taken in the fall and for the movie we made for Fall Banquet. This will kind of show you, remember when times were warmer and greener? I can just see it. Everybody's going to leave here tonight and just walk over to the property and start praying over it. People are going to be like, what's happening? Matt Langler, we're going to need a card on how to clear that land. You can see over there in that corner of the barn, just real quick before it turned around, that's our property as well. Yeah, amen. Okay. Real quick, here is a site plan that we've had created for the new property, okay? It's probably subject to change, as all things are as we get closer and we actually start completing it. But you can see there's a laser pointer on here. Justin, will you do it? Because I can't even see the laser. Colorblind is fun. So you can see the football in the soccer stadium there. Can you guys see that, or is that? Okay. I'm just the only one that can't. All right. You can see the football soccer stadium there. There's bleachers on both sides. There's a press box. Underneath that, most likely, is where we would build locker rooms and a concession stand for outdoor use. You can see the parking. Over to the right, you can see now the what will be the academic building. It's hard to tell there, but it'll actually be 2 stories built into the ground a little bit. So I think one of the things we're talking about, and again, much can change between now and then, but walking in on the upper level and then the gym being down. Have you ever been to Kennewick Hills? You've probably seen, or have you been to I know of Kennewick Hills, I don't know some other places, but there's probably other gyms where you actually walk in and then you go down to the court and the bleachers. So that's kind of the direction we're going there. And then you can see the baseball field, softball field, some more parking, a little bit of an additional practice fields over there. And then you can see, what would that be, towards 52nd, you can see the house and the barn. All kinds of options there, whether we move the barn, keep it there, we just make sure we're going to have a road going through it for access. So pretty exciting, even to see it at this level. Even to see it just as a drawn-out site plan, it's exciting to see what can be and where we can go. I gave that to you. Yeah, thank you. Last slide tonight, and this is why we're here tonight. Number one, we wanted to cast this vision out to you, to as many people that could be here as possible. This is going to go on Facebook. This is going to go on our website. We're actually going to have a page created specifically to this City on a Hill vision. Descriptions of phase 1, descriptions of phase 2. What do we need from you? We need partners, folks. We need a community to get behind this and to sow a seed of any kind, I don't care. When I talk to the staff, I'm like, I don't care if you give $10. Sow in something so that everybody's a part. Everybody's getting behind this. Everybody's moving forward because that's what it's going to take. Time is short. I mean, even if when we're looking at finishing this phase up and moving to the second one, I mean, we're talking single-digit years to be able to be at this place if our growth continues the way that it is. And I really believe, guys, a line is being drawn in the sand. The gray area that's existed in West Michigan for a long time is shrinking. It's shrinking. It's getting to a place where we all are going to have to take a stand. You've chose Triunity probably for a variety of reasons, but I would bet at the top of the list is you wanted to stand with the stands that we were taking as a school. And whether people did that this year, next year, everybody is going to have to make that choice. Everybody's going to have to take that stand. And so as we do, I believe we're going to grow. As we take this stand to be a city hall, I think people are going to be drawn to who we are and to what we stand for. Because if we don't stand for something, you're going to fall for everything, right? I know it's cliche and it's used all the time, but that's a reality. And we're seeing compromise all over the place, everywhere. I won't digress into all the places and what we see, but it's there. And we can promise you, as a board that's sitting here, as a superintendent, as a board president, all of us, we will stand. We will not compromise. We will hold fast to what the Word says and to what we're called to be. You can count on that. So, what am I asking? We need the total construction costs covered by August 1 of this year, 2022. That is our highest priority and our biggest urgency. Once we have that covered, additional funds, any additional funds that we have up to $4 million, because that'll just about cover all of it, we'll put towards the land contract and paying back the note for the land across the street. The total amount, I mentioned this earlier, total amount raised to date includes all lead gifts and board and staff commitments. So now we're bringing it to you as a community and saying, can you partner? Will you partner with us? Will you pray about partnering with us and standing with us as a school and helping us move forward to what we clearly 100% believe that God's calling us to do? Again, August 1 is when the construction total is needed. January 31, 2023, marriage, sorry, digress. January 23 is when we'd like to have all $4 million raised for phase 1. So assuming we can do that, then we move on to phase 2, which is right around the corner. So what am I asking you tonight? I'm asking you to pray tonight. If you don't even need to pray any more than you already have and you're all in, we'll take the envelope and the pledge card that you have on your seat or under you. We'll take that tonight. But I am asking, if you're not ready to make a decision tonight, would you pray and sometime in the next couple weeks make that decision? We're asking that by February 11, that those that are interested and those that are willing to partner would return those pledge cards with whatever gift or commitment that you would be willing to make. That's it. That's what it boils down to. It's exciting. It's huge. It's way bigger than any of us in this room. To be honest, it's scary. Sometimes I think, I'd rather just be doing something other than taking this leap. But I feel like this is exactly where, it's where God's called me to be. It's where God's called all of our staff, all of our board. It's where He's called you to be His parents. And now we take this step forward together. Before we end, we want to give you guys some time to ask some questions that you might have or have come up over throughout the evening. So I will come down. Justin, did you want to add anything else before we?
Nope. Hopefully we'll be able to answer all your questions. I'm going to ask that a few more of our board members come and join us. So we'll turn this over to Q&A time, and so hopefully you guys have some good questions. I'm sure you do.
And I'm going to ask before we start this, Jeremy and Greg, will you come on up? Deb, if you could come up. Nate, if you would come up. You may have some specific questions that myself or Justin can't answer. They may fit better for Jeremy, and Greg are on the Building and Site Committee. Nate is our finance chair. And, you all know Deb Blanker, affectionately called Mama B. All right, I will come and bring you, okay, I'll bring you the mic. Or you can just yell it, yep. What was that? Brittany. She's like, I sat in the back for a reason. What is it?
We've got 1.42 on the high school itself and $500,000 on the land contract.
Anybody else? Dave.
Would this addition eliminate the waiting list for next year then?
Would this, for those that might not have heard, would this addition eliminate the waiting list for next year? Yes, it would, as far as I know, and some.
For the elementary, for sure.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, Aaron.
How about the churches that we go to? Can you kind of give us an overview of the feedback that you're getting from them, whether they're willing to be part?
I have met with several of the local churches, not all of them yet, but the ones that I've met with have been very responsive and actually have already given some gifts towards it. So I can tell there has been great buy-in to this point. And I don't think we're done yet because there's still some that are waiting.
All your phase one contractors been selected?
Yes, they have. Yes.
How many classrooms are you going to do for the new high school? I don't know yet.
Haven't got that far yet. I think in our early discussions we talked more on square footage, right? We didn't really get into. You want to comment on that? Not really.
It's too early to comment on that. We really just focused on what's the average size of a gym, what kind of spiritual life auditorium would we really like to create, and what would that square foot really look like. And so that's where we came up with that 100,000 square foot, just looking at an average construction and how many students usually you can get with an auditorium and a gym and that square foot.
Anybody else? Oh my gosh, I got to go to the gym.
How does this affect the playground? If we're going to have more students and we're taking part of that, and then there's a soccer field, is there going to be a playground left?
Good question. My understanding is we're not going into the playground. We are going into a little bit of the prayer garden, which we're going to repurpose to a different spot. You want to comment anymore?
Yeah, there's going to be some additional parking going on the south side that is going back towards. The playground won't be affected, but like where the Gaga ball pit is, if you all know that, there does have to be some additional parking back there, which is required by the city for the addition we're putting on. So, and there's more parking that's going to be going on the north side, right next to the modulars as well, but that won't be getting into the soccer field at all.
How many additional teachers will we be employing?
Good question.
Wow.
Well, for the new, for this edition, we clearly have to have a teacher per classroom, so what we know we'll use 4 of the 5 for sure. So on the elementary side, there will be 4 additional teachers this year or this coming year.
Is there any plans at all to expand the playground? Because if you have 5 classrooms of 30 kids each, that's 150 kids, and that's a pretty small playground for 150 more kids.
The plan is really to reconfigure the recess time. So we realize that we can't put all those kids out there, so we'll probably go to 3 lunch periods, 3 recesses.
Anybody else? Any questions or just gifts you want to make right now? Nobody? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, did I miss somebody? Was somebody over here? No? All right. Well, I think that wraps it up.